Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I guess it's my turn. I don't know if I'm going to be able to compete with what I just followed, but I do want the great representative to know we have perfume soap in that bathroom now. Good job. ALS has come through for us again. There's a little boy that was given $1.25 from his mother as they went to church Sunday morning. And she said, "Joe, this is for your collection." And they went to church, and the preacher gave a great sermon about giving. And one of the things that he spoke loud about was the fact that God likes a cheerful giver. So when the mother left church, she asked Joey, "Did you give the collection that I gave you?" And he says, "No, Mom, I put the quarter in." And she said, "Well, why did you just put the quarter in?" "Well, the preacher said Jesus wants a cheerful giver, and I couldn't be cheerful if I had to give up the dollar too." You know, it's a season of giving. We're into Christmas. Look at that, you even got to laugh. No booze yet. So it's a time of giving. Presents, everybody's getting their presents, and I was reading a list of the most favorable presents this year. And that is a broken drum. You know why? It can't be beat. As you heard before me, it takes a lot of people to do this job. Telling jokes is not easy. I have to give up my supplier of these jokes. For years, I was accused of telling bad jokes, and I think the problem was not that my jokes are bad, it's that the recipients of those jokes were very offended because they were third grade level jokes that I got off the radio on a radio show that had a program on the way in every Thursday that had little giggles. And these elementary kids would call in and give these little jokes, and I would try to remember them and sometimes say it right and sometimes not. But I think I offended a lot of my colleagues, and I apologize for that. But it does take a lot of people, and it starts at home. We all know how much our families put in. Sorry, Andrea, I'm going to compete with you on this side. It takes a lot of work. It's knocking the doors, it's doing the mailers, it's putting up with my complaining because I'm frustrated. And it really comes home when your 17-year-old daughter says to you at Thanksgiving break, "Dad, are you finally going to stay home for a few days?" It takes a lot of time. It's about working with people. And working with people is getting to know them. I want to thank my district for electing me several times, different positions. They're putting their trust in me. I hope I served them well. I did everything I could, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. My staff has been just phenomenal, and we all know how important they are. So I want to throw out a few names here. Rebecca Climey. She's a throwback from Glenn Stile Jr. Some of the lobbyists up there will remember him, his father Glenn Stile. Thank him for our term limits. I just wish he would have spent a little more time on it. Jeff Snyder. Rebecca came in with a 6-month agreement to help Jeff Snyder get on board and get me off and running. She did a fantastic job. And then Jeff Snyder took over, was with me the entire time until the last 3 months. Jeff Snyder is, he's a little young to be my brother, but he definitely could be my son. Just phenomenally, very bright man that I'm going to miss. He worked for me in my company, helped me through my campaigns, took the heat, straightened me out when I was on the wrong track, and he never was afraid to do that. He was my accountability. So those are great relationships I hate to say goodbye to. Brian Cepeda, or we also refer to him as PETA, pain in the Adam's apple. He was my therapist. I fired him once a week, whether he deserved it or not, but he never understood what that meant, because the next week he came back, and he might get there. Courtney Panther, and Allison Gilbert. They're my fill-ins. After we left Jeff, instead of hiring full-time, my friend Lisa Pustin-Lyons shared Courtney with our office. And she's been a godsend until the governor stole her. And then we hired Allison Gilbert to fill in, and she'll go work for Representative-elect Thomas Albert. Great people. And I can't forget Lindsay Korndike, who is now married. And she was a great staff supporter as well, until this young, well, not so young, but this freshman came in and stole her from me by the name of Robert Hewlin. But she served well for you, and I'm happy you gave her a great opportunity. We've heard and thanked all the people that support us, our communications people, our staff support, our legal sides, our building support. They're all vital to helping us do our job and represent our communities. But I want to do a call out to one of my communications staff, Samantha Bell. We call her Sammy. She is a young lady that has great potential and has done a lot of good things for me in my district. She has got the media totally buffaloed that I'm a better guy than what I really am. But the latest thing is she got the attention of a couple of the media people when we promoted a safety program in the district for a company owner and father that lost a son on the job because they just didn't know the hazards. And with her assistance, we got the attention. We had up to 100 contractors that came for that, and every one of them walked out of there learning something that they didn't know before. And I'm sure there'll be lives saved because of the information with the help of consumers in Myosha. So as I look back and look at all the people I served with, it's hard to talk about everybody, but I could, a lot of stories. But one of the things I came to my mind as I looked at some of my early pictures of being sworn in, as a speaker, I too lost my parent. That picture had my father in there. No, he's not. And those are big changes that happen as we take on a job like this, and it's so encompassing sometimes. But I was blessed and have a granddaughter, Evelyn Getchoff, and a grandson, Colton Yonker, that has came into my life since my father's passed, so I'm very grateful about that. Speaker Bolger and the J-Team, they've been brought up. We've heard a lot. Some of us lived through those years. They were great. We had a great time. We've been through some very scary times together, and sometimes not so cooperative times, but a great team and a lot of good memories. And Kevin Cotter, my second speaker, I've watched you mature to a very difficult job. It's not easy what you do, and I appreciate all that you've done. One of the successes to that J-Team was a man that we know called John Walsh. He was their speaker pro temp, worked that gavel a lot. And there's a couple memories I have of him up there. Well, one, he was up there listening to the speeches as they would linger on, and he'd fall asleep. And one time he woke up and automatically gavelled right in the middle of one of our colleagues were in the middle of their speech and shut the mic down. It was another thing that we did is, yeah, something like that. Another thing is we had a little competition going my first year here is when he would call for immediate effect and we get the little tink, tink, tink with a pencil, we would stand up in this back. I sat here where Representative Jenkins sits and where Representative Townsend sits with Steve Lindbergh. Barb Byram was right behind him, Joe Haveman, Heisey, Hooker, Al Pashoka, and Kevin Daly. And we decided we would stand up and entertain them and make them laugh or smile. And then a few people over there, Janetsky, I think, Somerville, a few over there got involved in it, and they started to compete who could make Walsh smile. And then he came to me, he says, I'll tell you what, whoever can make me laugh out loud is going to I'm going to buy him a beer. So we kind of congregated together and came up with a plan. First, I was going to give them the moon, but they thought Dickinson wouldn't appreciate that, and he would haul me off the floor like he did Harvey, and I wouldn't want to be seen kicking my feet like he was when he carried him off the floor. So Steve Lindbergh says, well, in his quiet, very mature, responsible way, he says, no, Yonker, I think we got to calm that down. I said, all right, then let's stand up and go, whoo, when he says cause for immediate effect. So we all agreed to that. So come up, immediate effect. I said, Steve, you ready? Yeah, ready. And he always kind of looked over his glasses like that. He said, yeah, we're ready. So John goes for cause for immediate effect. The pencil goes. We all stood up, whoo, together. John didn't laugh. Steve didn't quite dare stand up, so as we were sitting down, he decided to get brave, and he stood up and he went, woo. And John broke out laughing, and Steve got the beer. He was great. He was a lot of fun. A couple other things as we go through the years. We had a lot of bills that weren't so popular with the Democrat caucus, and Barb Byron was always very passionate about speaking to them. And as she would go up to do that, she developed a speech impediment. She had a hard time saying bad one time, and every time as she went up there, I would remind her, now Barb, it's one bad, but no, it's bad, 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 bad. So every time she would talk to a bill, she would always start off, bad, 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 bad bill, and became the bad Barb Byron. Holly Hughes comes to mind, my Dutch sister. Whenever I would try to explain my position, no one could understand me until Holly would interpret the Dutch. A good solid Dutchman. I want to remind you, you still have my fence posts. Ben Gallarden. I just want to give you an FYI. When John Bumstead comes over and tries to get a date with your wife, don't get hostile toward him. He really is a good guy. I'd trust him with my wife, as long as Chief Dixon was chaperoning. Nesbitt, Representative Nesbitt. It's been great serving with you as your assistant floor leader. However, that very tall, intimidating guy that sits across the aisle from you, known as Sam Sam, he really has to be strapped down. He scares the daylights out of me when he stands next to me and points at the paper. But I love you, Sam. You're a great man. Earl the Pearl. Let's talk about this 48-foot bus tour that we had that was accused of hitting that cone. Now, I think you all have to hear the rest of this story. It's funny, I had this. So, Harvey, you know how the state police down in Detroit, when they chase these guys and they hook their butt back in and flip their car? This guy can do that with traffic cones with a 48-foot motorhome. And I'm following behind him through this traffic. This is out by Representative McBroom's district. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, behind that bus, this cone comes flipping out. And it slapped the side of my motorhome. And it got caught in the mirror frame, ripped a little piece off, but it kind of banged underside. And it scared everybody inside. I actually seen hair on Pashoka's head there for a little bit. It was amazing. Kathy Crawford, being the better half of Hugh Crawford, whom I served with for 4 years. Great guy, but Miss Personality and a blooming author. Keep up the good work. Make sure the pictures are not R-rated. Maybe you and Phil ought to get together and see. Maybe you can put something together. Ray Franz, the seatmate that I hardly ever sat with. But I want to say, it's a tough job running that podium, and you've done a yeoman's job at it. Thank you for all the hard work you've done for us, and I enjoyed running the floor with you, even though I threw you under a bus a few times there. Not on purpose, but great job. Oh, Goike and Altman. Now this is the Mr. Trucks over there. These guys are very jealous and they really like Dodge trucks, but they really have a problem to spend the money to buy a Dodge truck. So a couple years ago, I came in with my Dodge four-wheel drive. I pull out to my spot. Of course, they were pulling in, and they noticed it right away. They got very jealous. They didn't say a word. They just kind of walked around it and Googled it and looked at the chrome wheels and the chrome footstep. And when we got on the floor, they just opened up and started to cut my truck down. So I knew they were jealous. And that was all fine. But the problem came in is when I was going home, they were walking around trying to put their scent on the wheels, and I had to get the state police there to haul them off. Doc Canfield, one of the dying dinosaurs of family practitioners.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your attitude in working with us as we move Michigan forward. You know, it's kind of funny. I look at the seating arrangement here. We have Doc Volpel. Well, that was what you said. When I was growing up, a doc of your training, I went to all the time and loved me. He was a great doctor. I shared that with you. But a lot of people, especially those in the MD field, refer to you guys as horse doctors. And I look at this now and I say, how'd this happen? We got a great family practitioner here, and we have a real horse doctor right in front of him. It's just like it was meant to be. But Doc Volpel, I appreciate the time I've had with you and the conversations we had with horses and sharing good ideas and giving me some advice. It's been very good. Jeff Irwin, you definitely got the prize of the best speech award. I was going to compete with you, but I thought I had a balance between you and Al Pashoka here, so I'm doing my best effort. But good job, shortest. I was very impressed. Amanda Price, Chair of Ed, you shared with us some very scary statistics of our education system, and we got a lot of work to do in that. And I've been very hard working for the last 3 years on looking at teacher preparation and really realize we have a bigger problem. Third grade reading is going to be a great asset, but we got to make sure our teachers are getting proper training to do that job. And you and Adam Zimke have been great working with me in that project, and I want to encourage you moving forward. You two stay with that. Our teachers need a lot more support. They need a lot better training, and we really have to continue down that track to make everything come together. Nancy Jenkins. Yeah, that was a tough one. Man, did she catch me by surprise. She is, I think, one of the kindest people that I've ever worked with. Very nice, very respectful of everybody. But she always said she had a dark side. I just found out what that was. And man, can she ever throw out a good one. But there's as I thought through a lot of experiences, there's a couple times when I was down here that had some pretty scary experiences. There was one time when we were up on the bridge. We went up on the tower, and I was up there. Nancy Jenkins was there, and Amanda Price was up there, and Pete McGregor then was state rep, and we were up at the very top, and there was a front that came through. The wind picked up, the rain started, and I was taking some pictures of Pete, Nancy, and Amanda, and the wind came and it blew so hard that their hair was standing straight out. And it kind of gave them the look like you see on women when they walk out of a restaurant after having dinner with Mike Colton. It's the most amazing thing. And then the guide said, well, now that the wind's blowing, we want you to look over the edge and look at what you're looking at. So we looked over the edge, and we seen water. When the wind died down, we looked over the edge, we seen the road edge. It's like an 8-foot movement of that pier when the wind picks up. It's quite an experience. Another scary experience I had was I was up in Sweeney, and when we had the veterans ride on snowmobiles. And Senator Casperson, myself, Senator Jason Allen, and Kelly Bartlett from MDOT was with a group of about 30 of us that went off and did a wonderful ride. And as we were winding back down toward Sweeney, Kelly Bartlett kind of misjudged a turn, and instead of slowing down, he hit the throttle, and he missed the turn and went head on into a tree. I was one sled behind him. He hit that tree at about 40 miles an hour, and I watched him bounce off that tree, and he fell on his back. And Jason Allen was right 2 sleds behind me, and we went up there, and there's a lot of the local Youpers up there, and we went up to help him. He was unconscious when we got to him, and the local Youpers, who are phenomenally trained in handling themselves in these situations, got his helmet off, and he came to, but he was in a lot of pain. And I and Jason sat and looked at him. We were trying to talk to him, and his face, we watched his face go from a pink to a gray, and we thought he was dying. And so we walked away. We couldn't handle it. But I tell you, hats off to the Yooper natives. They really know how to handle things and how to care for each other, because they don't have a lot close by. And they do a great job. And they just stayed with them, and then as we got things going, got him out of there and got him flown into Traverse City. Of course, it took him months before he was back to work, but he's doing fine today. But that was probably one of the scariest things I had until last week. George Draney gave a speech, and he started off talking about this talent he has on giving jingles. And he sang that jingle, and as he did that, I instantly had this picture in my head of him and Mike Colton on a stage in Las Vegas singing these jingles, and it just put me in a cold sweat. And that topped everything. Roger Victory, the man with the bleeding beats. I just want to say beware when you buy beats from Roger Victory. El Pachoka. Yeah, what do you say about that guy? He's the second meanest guy in the world. You know, I've worked with him. We had a great time going across the country. It was good times, a lot of work. I didn't find you too mean, but sometimes not so willing to respond to phone calls very quick. But it was a good time, man. I really appreciate you. Chris Affendoulis. Now, here's a story that was more recent. Grand Rapids, we had the King of Holland there, King and Queen, and that was just really cool. I went and seen my King and Queen, and had lunch at the Frederick Meyer Garden, and Chris decided he wanted to feel like a Hollander. I don't know why, but he did, and he was there. So when we got done, we had to be back here for session within, we had like 45 minutes, and it's an hour drive. So I thought we would just speed and use our claim that we're state rep and we're on our way to session, so you got to give us a free ride. So we're going down the highway 90 miles an hour, and Chris started talking at the parking lot, and he never quit. He kept talking. And so I'm going 90, and I'm thinking, if I can just get 100, maybe I could be like the speed of sound and get ahead of us talking, and the car would go quiet. But it didn't work. But I didn't get a ticket, and we did make it here in time for session. All right, my two great clerks, Gary Randall and Richard Brown. I promised you a riddle for you guys to figure out. So, your riddle 2, when you get both my answers, my breakfast pay will be due. And everybody thinks they're such great people, and they are. But there's a dark side to them too. And their cohort, Eric back there, you just got to be careful when those two are gathered together what they're doing behind your back. And as a result, they owe me breakfast. So here's your riddle. If athletes get athlete's foot, what do astronauts get? All right, you think about it. When you're ready to tell me, you can tell me at breakfast. Here's riddle 2. What horse never comes out in the daytime? Before I move on to my next adventure of being a brain commissioner, a well driller, a drain commissioner, and the last I heard, I'm going to be a Kent County plumber. Whatever it is, I'll guarantee you I'll work as diligent for Kent County as I have here. But I have to clear up an issue on my jokes. 2 years ago, and there's been some reference to it here, but 2 years ago I've gotten fried by quite a few speakers on my jokes, but there's two that stood out above everybody. And that is Representative, now Senator Shirkey, and Representative Pete Lund. Pete Lund referred to my jokes that were fit for only the black hole of jokes where they never return. Then Representative Shirkey, this very tough, capitalistic, free market businessman, came out with his very poetic poem. This dude has a feminine side that I never expected to come out. And I'll tell you, if I tried to get a copy of it, I think the clerks can probably produce it. Well, if we can, we'll get them on your desk. You have to read this thing. This thing is a multi-million-dollar poem. It was so professional. I almost had tears, even though he crucified my jokes. But as a result of that, I think I'm going to tell, in closing, the world's worst joke. To Pete's surprise, I dug down in that black hole, and jokes do come back, and this one was at the very bottom. And I'll guarantee you, if you thought I had bad jokes before, this one is with the world's worst joke. And the last time I told this, I was in college, and I'm asking the sergeants to be close because I had to run for my life. So there's a man. He was going through North Dakota, and there's an area in North Dakota where there's a lot of hills. And there's just enough miles there that you can, if you have a full tank of gas, make it to the next gas station. Well, he looked at his tank and he figured he was going to be all right. So he proceeded down that road and he went up hills, down hills, 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 got to the top of the last hill and he ran out of gas. Well, there was a farmhouse right there. So he went up to the farmhouse, knocked on the door. Lady answered. He says, "Hey, ma'am, I'm sorry, but I just got done going up hills, down hills, up hills, down hills, up hills, down hills, up hills, down hills, up hills, down hills. Got to the top of the last hill and I ran out of gas. You got a place to put me tonight?" He says, she is, "Sure, yeah, we got room up in the barn loft. Make yourself comfortable. Supper's at 7. "Oh, that's great." Pretty soon, a lady came up, that very same spot, looked at the sign, looked ahead. "I can make it." So she took off, went up hills, down hills, 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 got to the top of the last hill, and she ran out of gas. So she went up to the door, knocked, and the lady answered and said, "Ma'am, I just got done going up hills, down hills, 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 up hills, and down hills, got to the top of the last hill and ran out of gas." "Oh, yeah, I got a guy in the barn that just did the same thing." "Well," she says, "do you got a place that you could put me up for the night?" She says, "Yeah, sure, help yourself up in the barn. There's a hay loft there." So she proceeded to go in the barn and get her place ready to sleep for the night. And then another guy came up to that same spot, looked over those hills and thought, "Yeah, I can make it." So he took off, went up the hills, down hills, up hills, down hills, up hills, down hills, up hills, down hills, up hills, down, up hills, down. Got to the top of the last hill and ran out of gas. And so he went into the same house, knocked on the door, and the lady came to the door, and he says, "Ma'am, I just got done going up hills, down hills, 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 got to the top of the last hill, I ran out of gas." She said, "Yeah, 2 other people just did that." He says, "You got a place for me here for the night?" She says, "Yeah, I go up in the barn, the other 2 are up there. Dinner's at 7. So they went, had dinner, and they slept good in the barn and got up for breakfast the next morning, came into the house, and she had cereal on the table for him. She had a box of Wheaties and a box of Cheerios. And she asked the one guy, said, "Well, what do you want for breakfast, Wheaties or Cheerios?" He said, "Wheaties." He says, "All right, here." And he asked the lady, "Ma'am, what do you want for breakfast, Wheaties or Cheerios?" She said, "Wheaties." "All right, that's fine." Gave him Wheaties. And the guy asked the other guy and said, "Sir, what do you want for breakfast?" He said, "Cheerios." And she said, "Well, that's good." He had Cheerios. So you know what the moral of this joke is? 2 out of 3 people eat Wheaties in the morning. Thank you very much. God bless you. And as little Timmy would say, God bless everyone.